Tom Lavecchia here with a continuation of our New Theory podcast. And talk about podcasts, the Romans say, speaking to the lion, as we have Mr. Nathan Latka, who I like to call the Godfather of business podcasts. Nathan, how you doing today?
Tom, you're hired. That's the best intro I've ever heard.
Well deserved. So we're going to jump right into it because there's a lot to cover. So I like to start off with the formative years. Where were you born? Where did you grow up? And what were some of your earlier influences?
Yeah, born in Northern Virginia, Loudoun County specifically in 1989. Birthday's October 3rd. Early influencers or influences obviously your parents, you point to that, but I also have many tools that they kind of connected me with. For example, Lincoln Logs, Connects, Legos, things of that nature. Those were the early years.
So you were a tinkerer, let's call it. And then, were you like the lemonade stand kid? Did you build like cooler kites? Like what was your earlier developmental, leads, if you will, to show who you are now?
Yeah, look, first off, when you look at the lemonade kind of example, I'm a big believer in selling pickaxes to gold miners. The people taking the risk are the ones going to look for gold.
Yes.
But if you can convince people there's gold over there, even if you have no idea if it's there, but if you can convince them there is, convince them to go look for it, and they need X, Y, and Z tools to execute the process of looking for gold, that's way less risky. So I would have been the kid selling additional sugar packets next to the lemonade stands because I know people want sugar to add to the lemonade they just bought to make it sweeter. And that way I don't have the risk of building a whole lemonade stand and renting the space myself. That's a different story though. My first business, I actually would go and convince my mom to buy 100-piece bags of candy from Costco for like $5. And then I would take each piece of candy and sell it for 50 cents on the bus ride, especially on the way to school because people had lunch money. That was my first taste of capitalism.
Nice. I like it. So, all right. So you started early. I believe I'm actually a follower of yours. Been following you for a while. Your first.
How'd you find me? Why'd you start?
Initially, I got into podcast listening. I want to say 2-3 years ago, and you came up through some press at the time, and I think believe still are one of the world's top business podcasters. So
by the way, that press, and there was a lot of it, shocked me because I was launching that show from like Blacksburg, Virginia, and before you know it, all these huge outlets, I'm talking Entrepreneur, Wall Street Journal, are saying #1 business show, and then below me, you have Tim Ferriss, who I respect so much, and many other people. So I don't know what happened, but something about the show people are loving.
Love it, and over 1 million downloads and continuing. So you started early in the business world. See, what I like about you, there's kind of two types. You got the podcaster who's like pontificating, but they didn't do shit, right? Or you have the person that maybe did it, but they might be a little too busy to podcast, or they have an ego, or whatever, right? Because a podcast is a grind. But you do both, or did both. So your first big venture, was it Heyo, or did you have a win before that?
We'll define what a win is in your terms.
Okay, so obviously you had a big exit and a big startup at 19 with Heyo. I guess maybe did you start a smaller company at 17 and exit maybe in the six figures, or sell it off, or what was your first real business venture?
Yeah, look, so there's also a lesson built in here when you look at like an Elon Musk of the world where everyone just remembers like SpaceX and everything. His first business, no one ever talks about this. He started an agency, a marketing agency that he sold for a little amount of money, and it creates momentum. Yeah. And so every successful entrepreneur, they're lying to you if they said, I just launched this and it was a huge hit. They always, whether they realize it or not, created some kind of momentum, and the momentum propelled them into their big win. So yes, I had created a bunch of things before that. It depends on how you define an idea, right? But maybe a dozen different ideas before that either made me money, or I broke even, or lost me money before I really got deep into Heyo.
Got it. All right. So let's focus on Heyo for a minute. So Heyo was one of your biggest moves. Walk us through how you started it, who you founded it with. Was your plan? Did you execute on your plan? Did you get out at the right time? Give us kind of where you were and how it ended up.
Yeah, Heyo was actually one of my smallest moves if you're actually measuring the risk, right? Wow. To me, it was very predictable. It was very de-risked. I had pre-sold $70,000 worth of the product, which was a Facebook fan page. Yeah. That money was actually in my PayPal account. And by the way, I just did an interview this morning for my show, The Top Entrepreneurs on iTunes, Tom.
Yeah.
And the guy and I argued because he's saying, Nathan, I have 1,000 customers. Then I asked him his revenue, and I said, what do you mean you have no revenue? You just said you had 1,000 customers. And he said, well, Nathan, these are non-paying customers. I'm like, well, what the hell is a customer if you're not paying? It's called a free user. That's called an expense. That's called a support expense. That's not a customer. And he's going, well, I like to think of them like customers. And I'm like, that's a great way to go bankrupt really fast. Whatever. My point was, the quickest way to validate an idea is to sell the idea on the idea alone and get the prepayment, because people will lie to you and they don't know they're lying. Your best friends will say, Tom, it's a great idea. You should do it. It's a baloney. Make them pay you. I don't care what you're building. I don't care if you're selling a car, you're building a cybersecurity piece of software or anything else. Make them pay you up front, because that will save you the time and effort of building some piece of shit that nobody's going to, use. So that's what I did. And it was very, to me, there was no risk because I had some money saved from working at a burger chain called the West End Grill at Virginia Tech while I was studying architecture. I had 8 months. If I had made no money, I had 8 months of expenses saved. And so I took a risk on the business, and that went on I grew to about $30,000 in monthly recurring revenue in about 6 months. Nice. We raised $550,000 from some of the world's really top investors. David Cohen from Techstars, 500 Startups. I mean, amazing people. And that was, by the way, if your folks are interested in terms, that was on a convertible note at a 6% interest rate, 25% discount, and $5 million cap. Oh, wow. And you can Google those terms if you're curious. But
now, I'm more familiar than most. My one question, though, about convertible note is, who decided to convert, the investor or the principal?
It depends, right? Usually in the note, it says at the next valuation event, which is usually a Series A, unless you sell early, they will convert at that valuation. Now, some of the things, one of the things that people do to get creative is I will say, I get to choose as the founder if you convert or not. So if I choose not to convert you into your equity, I then have to pay you back your $500,000 plus 6% interest.
Correct.
But that might be worth it if I have a huge valuation. But many times, those angel investors, you want to reward them for betting on you early. So you want them to convert in, even if it's not a good deal for you at that point, because you have to remember they supported you first.
Got it. So it's basic gambling. You're hedging. You're saying, hey, give us some money. We're going to pay you back, and you can take your money and run. Or, hey, I want to be on board. It'll convert at either a cap or at a later date, and then you move on after that point. And then ideally, it's either a strategic partner or, at the very least, somebody who's very well heeled. Would that be a good assumption?
Those angel investors want the latter, right? Yeah. They're not. I've never heard of an angel calling a note, meaning when the note expires, them saying, okay, entrepreneur, you have to pay us $500,000 now, because usually that entrepreneur does not have that cash in the bank, and that would put them bankrupt. And the last thing an angel wants is a founder going, never work with that angel. He bankrupted my last company, right? You're not going to get any new deal flow.
Now, is there a deal where when you pay back, would you pay back over a fixed period, like a mortgage to hedge on both sides, or it's usually a lump sum?
That's all. Look, I think all that's negotiable if you do it that way.
Got it. All right. So you know what you're doing. You know how to raise money. What happened with the exit? So let's talk about the good stuff. And you asked some pretty direct questions in your podcast, so it's okay. I'll do the same. What was the exit amount?
You're listening to my podcast?
Yeah. I didn't love the makeup lady last time. We'll get to that in a second. Because
I'm curious too why you listen, because some people hate it. Some of the reviews are like, Nathan's horrible, he's rude, he cuts people off, and some people say, I love it. It's short, he gets all the revenue numbers and the data, he gets the CEOs to tell everyone what they pay themselves. I've never had data like this.
Okay, I want to stop. Yeah, you're right. I want to get it why I love it. I love it because I'm a dough, not a show guy, and I want to know what people make. I want to know how much they're earning. I want to know, if an exit was, $4 million, how much did you pocket? How much did you pocket after taxes? Did you dick around in Thailand for a year afterwards, or did you go back on the grind? So it all depends kind of like how you do it, because we all talk about like the end or the beginning. You're catching people kind of on the grind. I want to know what's going on. Like I'm in a situation, we'll talk later, but where I'm starting up New Theory, but I'm older. I'm 41. And do I pay myself, not pay myself? I need to know what the hell to do. And I want to listen to people who are successful. So I like how you cut to the chase. The makeup lady I didn't like is because if you listen to your show, you ask fucking real questions. So when you kept asking those real questions.
Like what?
What was that? How many units are rebought by clients? It's okay to answer. I'm a marketer. It's okay to answer that. You're not going to disrupt either way your competitors or your investors. You ask their what they call it the round at. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but you do a little digging online and you have the right law firm or right whatever. This shit's half public most of the time.
Yeah.
So I was just a little frustrated that like she either didn't listen to your show, right, and doesn't know your format, or she's just using it for press.
Yeah, well, some things that look. I do have people trying to weasel their way on. I mean, look, the show's doing very well. It's 4 million downloads. I mean, it's unbelievable. And that's why people are listening. It's 15 minutes every morning, and I get cut to the chase. What was your last valuation? How many customers? What do you pay yourself salary? Are you married, single, divorced? I mean, all the good stuff.
That's what I love about it. So
Yeah.
let's put Nathan Latka on the block a little bit, right?
Yeah.
All right. So number one for Heyo, what was the exit amount?
Well, let me answer that, but I want to get your prediction first to see if you're right or wrong. If I asked you, you know a little bit about me. If I asked you to look at my history and you tell me what you think my biggest financial windfall was, where I made the most money in my life, what would you guess? And then I'll tell you about Heyo.
I was gonna guess Heyo at 4 million, and I was gonna guess you probably watered down to 1/3 of the company at the time. That would be my guess.
Okay, what would your second guess be if I told you it wasn't Heyo?
The new one is a tip the box, whatever. You got to forgive me another exact name.
The top www.topinbox.com.
Topinbox.com. So that's your current. So that can't be it. I don't know what your biggest exit is, or I don't know what any exits outside of that.
Well, let me start by telling you where I've made the most money over my life.
Okay.
Podcast sponsorships.
Holy shit!
Wow.
Wow.
Right, so that number's in the millions at this point, right? And I think it's stupid. Look, I love Pat Flynn. I mean, as a guy, and I love John Dumas, and they put out these monthly income reports because it's a great content piece. But it's also not smart, right? There's a finite amount of people willing to sponsor a podcast, and when I can go to those pages and literally pick off their sponsors, right, which is what I did with John. I didn't do it with Pat, but I did do it with John very successfully. Those sponsors are now paying me like a significant amount of money, more than they're paying those guys. So I won't reveal what I'm making per month in podcast sponsorships, but I can tell you I don't know of another guy that only pays about $30 per show in terms of show notes and paying my editors, and makes like light years, a number that would shock you, more per episode in terms of sponsor placement. So that is my biggest financial windfall, actually. It was not Heyo. It was not my current company that I just bought, and I'm acquiring many companies, but it's actually podcast sponsorships.
Wow. Okay. So this is actually critical. So you keep it simple. HostGator, I believe, is one of your sponsors, right?
Yep.
And HostGator will pay Nathan Latka's company to mention, I believe in usual media, there's a beginning, there's a middle, there's an end. They'll pay per mention or whatever. And they pay you. Now, do you charge on a CPM basis or a per show basis?
Listen, I'm hoping your show is very unpopular and that very few people hear what I'm about to say, because it's stupid for me to share this. I literally lose leverage. It's honestly stupid.
Yeah.
But I will tell you because I like your beard, okay? I do not price based off CPM.
Wow.
I do not price based off placement. I do not price based off, is it a 30-second pre-roll or a 15-second post-roll or a 60-second mid-roll? I start every sponsor conversation with the following question. What are you currently paying to acquire customers on your other channels?
All right, back to Nathan. The cat jumped on the keyboard. So CPA, go. Sorry.
Yeah, so look, what I start every conversation with is, what are you currently paying on your other channels to acquire customers? And I'll get a variety of answers. One is, well, Nathan, we don't do any paid acquisition. I'm going to say, you're not a good fit for my show, right? Because I need to know what number I have to beat for you to sign a 12-month contract with me, right? Otherwise, there's no point in running a one-episode test, right? It's stupid. So that's one answer, right? The second is, Nathan, they give me an answer. I'm making this up. We pay $100. I'm going to say, great. Let me give me about a week to chow a cohort of my audience. And I'm going to try and predict if I think, how many customers I think I can get you for under $100.
Yeah.
And what I then do is I have a minimum. All right, now I will share this with you, okay? Because you can't figure out how much I make if I just share this number, right? I have a minimum of a 3-month sponsorship, right, where they're paying $15,000 per month. Now, if you guys are listening to this later on, this may have increased or even doubled because the show's growing fast. So you can't use this against me if your sponsor's listening right now, right?
Exactly.
But today, that's what my minimum is, $45,000. So if I take 100 divided into 45 grand, I know I have to drive them. What is that? 4,500 customers.
Correct.
Is that right? For them to make that spend? No, 450 customers.
450 customers, yes.
Yeah. For them to make that spend worth it. If I don't think I can drive them that many customers, I won't even do the test.
All right.
So that's how I work.
Okay. So there's a lot here. There's a lot. Number one comes down to one thing in all businesses, CPA, cost per acquisition, what it costs me to acquire a client. I had a client once in the plastic surgery space, and they were selling a product, which is different than the surgery they were doing. And I kept going, your product's $40 or whatever. What is your cost per acquisition? What are you comfortable with? They're like, cost per acquisition is not important. I just hung up the phone. It was a big client too, and could have been a lot of money. But the fact that they couldn't get it is just showed the incongruency, and they were just wrong, right? So with that being said, I get it. But here's what's tricky though about I want to kind of not punch a hole, but challenge a drop. If I listen to HostGator and I Google it, it's going to come in as an organic lead. And how do they track that acquisition back to you?
Well, so if you listen to my show, you're going to see something very specific that I do, and I can tell you it right now, but you'll miss out on some of the nuance. So guys, I just Google after this or on iTunes, just search my name or the top entrepreneurs and listen to what I do. Tom, in a nutshell, when I do a sponsorship for one of my current, sponsors, let's say I'm making this up. Let's say it is Slack, right? Everybody knows Slack. Right. So when I mention Slack as a sponsor, they're just going to go Google Slack and sign up. So how do I make sure I get credit for that? I'll say something like this. Hey guys, I've been so frustrated. I'm buying so many companies like the topinbox.com and other B2B SaaS companies. My team is remote. I couldn't figure out how to clearly communicate with everybody in real time. So I just found this brand new tool. It helps me keep my remote team connected. If you want to see the tool, go to nathanlatka.com/remote.
So native advertising in a way, right?
Well, I never mentioned Slack.
I love it. Okay. So
what happens is people are not wondering what's Slack. They're wondering what tool is Nathan using. And that is way more powerful to my audience than just mentioning the word Slack.
Got it. So like a non-branded plug, they drive to it, and then they can download to your website, easily tracking the code. That's easy. Okay, that makes sense.
Exactly.
Right? All right. Now, in terms of podcasting, okay, now, have you ever, and this is going to be a pretty poignant question, have you ever charged for guests to be on the show?
Why do you always hedge your tough questions? You should stop doing that.
Okay, I'm just going to ask you, were you ever paid for play at any point?
You cannot pay for play with me, but I will tell you this. Guests have paid to come on. So let me tell you how I manage that.
Yeah.
When somebody reaches out and says, Nathan, I want to be on your show, especially now because we have a huge wait list. And look, when you look at all my guests, I've had over 800. Yeah. Altogether, they raised over $10.3 billion with the B dollars. Their revenues added together are over $2 billion monthly, right? Annually. So I've had amazing guests on and also startup folks. So I get a lot of inbound requests. I started just replying with this email. Hey, Sue, thanks for sending me your client as a potential guest. Unfortunately, we have a huge waiting line. And in order for me to have my research team analyze if your guest is a good fit for my show, there's a $500 application fee.
And then,
I say, do you want to move forward?
Okay.
And they'll say, well, what happens with the 500? What if your research team says no? And I say, then we refund the 500. But if my research team says yes, we keep the 500.
Love it.
So that's how I maintain quality, but still allow people to pay me to play.
Got it. Now, FTC wise, do you have to report that during your spiel, or because of that you're covered?
What do you mean?
With FTC, because I know you might have to say branded content or some other bullshit. Since they're paying for a research fee, you don't have to put it as sponsored or branded content, correct?
Well, I mean, when somebody applies to be on the Inc. 5000,
they got to pay,
right? Yeah, they pay, right? Does Inc. put a disclaimer at the bottom of every listing on Inc.?
I love it. I fucking love you. Okay, so you got a few minutes. So I'm going to ask some direct questions. Are you a millionaire net worth?
Yes.
Multi?
Yes.
Married?
No.
Straight or gay?
This is a question I always wonder why people ask, because when I Google my name, it says Nathan Latka. Google auto-fills it. They go net worth. They go podcast. It says, is Nathan Latka gay? And Tom, here's what I'll tell you. there's something happening if I'm a smart business guy. Gays love me. I mean, I have a beautiful comb over. I have a great jawline.
Yeah.
I have a great body. Gays love me.
Yeah.
Cougars love me too.
Yeah.
Women, they love me, right? I lose leverage. If I came out and said, I'm straight, then the gays don't like me. If I say I'm gay, I lose my cougars and my sponsorship revenue cuts in half. So if you can strategically convince me to tell you if I'm gay or straight, I will tell you, but I bet you will not be able to make a rational agreement for that case.
I love it. All right. So here's the other part, and this is, you know this firsthand.
You're not even going to challenge me on that? You're going to roll over like a dog?
No, I'm okay. I'm okay with it because to be honest with you, at the end of the day, if you were gay or you were straight, it doesn't make me any more or less money, right? So therefore, I'm okay with it, right? So,
well, by the way, I think this episode will do very well because I'm probably not like most people you have on. I think it's probably going to be one of your best shows.
How about this? Will you distribute on your social channels?
I will look at how it comes out, and I will see what happens. And depending on how much traffic you get for it organically, I will make a decision at that time if I share it.
I will do that, and I'm going to put a commitment to boost. I'll put 1,000 on it. So I'm going to put a commitment to boost it, not 5-hour bullshit. I'm going to put a commitment to boost it for real. Because I get the traffic anyway, and then worst case, you get the exposure, I get the traffic, and I'm still hopefully on the holiday card list. And then if you share it, then we're in the money. All right. So, because in the interest of time, a few more questions, and then we'll wrap. With podcasts, right? If I called you up for a consultation, you'd probably charge me like between a few thousand an hour. But for a podcast, I'm nailing down guests left and right. Nathan Chan sent in something in. This guy, John Hamlin, is supposed to be like a billionaire. He's coming on. I got this mobster used to make $5 million a week. I'll send that to you for the Colombo crime family. Now he's a minister. He's hard to get to. When you say podcast, people, it's like you have a 13-inch dick. Like people just open the doors for you. Why?
Because they don't understand what it means. Like there are people that have podcasts that get like 1 download per episode, which you don't waste time with. So like the thing is, people just think they want to be on a podcast. They don't understand why. And so for smart business people that value their time, they'll ask questions like, how many listens or downloads per episode do you get? That's the real question, right?
True.
And that's how you decide what to go on. So you're right. I mean, use it to your advantage. You use your fake 13-inch dick to your advantage.
Love it. Now I have charged for some and some I haven't. I'm not going to charge you, obviously, right?
But you paid me to come on.
Exactly. Well, with boosting, right? So with that being said, Nathan, I might start charging because here's the thing. I finally got on iTunes and Google Play, and I'm an SEO guy by background, right? So I'm able to put your website on the description of my RSS feed, and you get a backlink from iTunes and from Google. Bro, fuck that. You got to pay for that, son. When do I charge and when don't I charge?
Tom, that's a tough question, man. It depends on how you want to make money and where you want to make money. I mean, look, a lot of my show, the reason I do it is for due diligence. Like I've bought companies on my show before. If I like all the numbers they give me, I made an offer and bought them live. I just did this with a food truck here outside my place. I walked up randomly, wrote a check, did a deal. I recorded it all on Facebook Live on my Facebook page at Nathan Latka. It got over 1 million views. So it depends on how you want to make money.
I love it. Now the way, okay, so you're strong in every medium. You're not as strong on Instagram. Why?
Instagram is just I am actually very strong on Instagram. You just don't know I'm strong. So Nathan Latka, my personal thing is not strong, but I own a network of Instagram accounts with about 10 million followers altogether.
Okay. So you're behind the scenes guy. Did you ever bang a groupie yet?
Have I ever what?
Banged a groupie yet? Have a groupie?
Oh my God. It's like, I wasn't sure if you said been in a Facebook group or banged in a group.
No. Banged a groupie yet?
No.
Okay. But I'm assuming you get a lot of thirst mail, right?
Nathan Latka is a podcast thirst trap.
I love it. All right. So one last question. I asked you to come on the show. You're a smart guy. You Googled me probably or checked something out, and I appreciate that. What was the deciding factor to say, hey, it's worth it or hey, it's not to come on the show? I
actually didn't do any of that. But the way you pitched me via email, I knew you were a listener. I knew you oozed over me. So I knew it was going to be favorable for me to come on. I knew I was going to be able to return and ask you questions where you're basically selling my show to your own audience by me saying, why do you listen to my show? And so that's why I came on.
Love it. So as a fellow podcaster, if I can say that because you're the guru, what questions do you have for me before we conclude?
Dude, I already worked them all in, man. That's how good I am.
Sweet. I love it, brother. NathanLatka.com, top podcast, which is frankly the top podcast in the world. Nathan,
You know, if you Google that, it's kind of cool, Tom. If you Google the top podcast on Google, guess who I come up? It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, you know what's great? Was that an SEO play to begin with? Or
Yes.
I love it. You know what's interesting though? Believe it or not, self-praise historically for the SEO world didn't work as well over the long run, but you fucking aced it. So I props to that. You know what I mean?
Because people, as the podcast world grows, one of the first searches a new podcast listener might do is Google the top podcast.
True. And then you got it early and then it grew. So Nathan
Exactly.
Latka, multimillionaire, never touch a groupie. Will maybe boost this if I get enough traffic, and we'll keep in touch with the New Theory audience because he's just a great guy. Nathan, thank you for your time, and good luck with the rest of your podcast life.
Tom, you're provocative. You're a wizard. Thank you for reaching out. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, brother.